Yeah.
Yeah, this is left.
All right.
Yeah, that feels better.
We are recording.
Cool.
I was saying we're live, and I mean, technically, in our terms, we are, but I'm not like doing like a YouTube live or anything like that when I podcast. I might start doing a little bit of that on down the road, though.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do you do live on your podcast?
No. I'm much more comfortable with just, the tape, running the tape and recording that way.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm thinking real seriously about getting like an external that way I can, and I do surf around on my Mac and my phone and stuff, but just to like look stuff up. But unless I have a third person in the room that's pulling stuff up for me, or it's gonna be.
It'd be convenient.
A little less limited. But a couple of the podcasts that we did for Music Unraveled, and I'm still trying to release the second one. I got to finish some edits for YouTube. We are putting in like pictures and
that's cool.
Lyrics and different things. Pictures, like we got a set list from a couple of different shows we went to. So, but anyway, so for the audience that's listening, I'm sitting down with Chris Thompson, owner of Thompson Defense Academy, law enforcement veteran. Tell us all about yourself.
Oh man, there's a lot. The older you get, the more there is to tell.
Yeah. So we've been knowing each other for what? How long now?
Oh man,
we met.
I know it's been over 15 years. It has to be.
Yeah, I know, man. It's been a long time.
And I'm thinking it was back in 2005, 2006, maybe?
It would have been after 06. I started training in 06, but I feel like I've been training about 18 months, so it was probably like between 07 and 08, so 10 years. Yeah. It's been a long time, though. We've trained together and rolled together, and now we're doing podcasts together.
Oh, yeah.
So, so you're born Dardanelle, and then how'd you got into law enforcement at some point, and what got you into, into and out of, and so on and so forth?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting story, because when I was coming up in high school, while I was at home, I had this little small TV. I can't remember, it's maybe a little 10-inch TV, and you remember you had the knobs on the TV, and I'll be turning the TV over and get like what they call channel 16. You had to switch from VHF to UHF or something, so I had to switch to antenna.
Man, switching signals is not easy.
Yeah.
I had to, going from TV to mixer and headphone amp and the video, what we're doing right now, going into the camera on the card for YouTube. Mm-hmm. Those are special, like, frequency. You have to get a different, like, it's called mono to stereo.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you know all about. But it's not like an instrument cable is not mono to stereo.
No.
I found that out. Anyway, yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, when I was looking that stuff up, and I was looking for, I think, the channel 16 Little Rock station, and I saw a show called Cops. I was like, man, I can't believe this stuff is on TV. Yeah, I didn't think it was. I thought it was like had to be like a comedy or a one-off show. But I'm like, man, this Saturday at 7:00. So I'm gonna turn over here next Saturday at 7:00 and see if the show's on. And the shows kept coming on. I was like, I can't believe they're putting this stuff on TV. After the second or third show, I'm like, I gotta do this. I think I can do that. And it's like, it's like anything else. You see martial arts, you see people fighting, and you think, I think I can do that. It's going to be cool to go out and learn that as a skill and go do it. Just part of your life adventure. But one thing, I think can't remember how old I was, but I know once I reached college, I started working with the university and under their security, under the supervision of the police department, the university police over there in Fayetteville. And actually, my mom didn't want me to do it because she knew I really didn't want to go to college at first. I wanted to be an architect, but I also want to be a police officer.
I used to kind of want to be an architect or an engineer, but I suck at math, bro.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, it's not that I could be good at it, but like I have poor retention of it. I can take a math class. I took college math, whatever the gen ed requirement was for my undergrad degree, and I believe I made an A in the course. I made an A in logic, and the logic, it like U of A, where you're talking about, is equivalent to pre-cal credit.
Logic class?
Yeah, mathematics is based off logic. But it is a lot different, and I just, like I said, I have poor retention for mathematics.
But it's not an if-then statement.
Yeah, what do you mean?
The logic class that you took, was it if-then statements?
Part of it. It was broken up. We started with fallacies. So, all the survey, basically just a survey or an overview of the fallacies. Then truth tables, formal proofs of validity, which is getting into what you're talking about, and using equations to solve certain statements and to derive their correctness and so on.
Yeah, because I took a class like that in college, and it was if, then, and therefore.
Yes.
A lot of statements, and it was all words, but it got to be pretty difficult because you were relating the words to equations.
If S, then P.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
I've actually got a book. I've got 2 books. What's fascinating is I really want to have my former philosophy professor, who's now retired. I saw him the other day and talked to him briefly. I want to have him on the podcast. He has an amazing story. But the guy that wrote the logic textbook that a lot of people use, a guy named Irving Copi, Copi. He was, I want to say, a GA for Irving Copi, or was a GA at the same time that Copi taught at the university he went to in Southern California. It was Berkeley. He's a super, super great person. I have a lot of respect for him, but I would love to have him on the podcast. So
it's funny when you take logic from a logic class and you apply it to real life, and people don't get the relationships, and they'll come up with something that's illogical.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just funny. I guess that's one of those internal jokes when you talk to people. You don't tell them what the punchline is.
Yeah. When we first started that logic class, he was like, when we were doing those fallacies, and it's like when I read Facebook more than anything, but he's just like, hey, just because these, that they're not going to make you any friends.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you're thinking about getting into architecture?
Yeah, that was my main spill pretty much when I was a kid coming up, because I always had a piece of paper in front of me and I was always drawing something, and I wasn't the type to sit down and draw like the chessboard or a picture of a statue or something.
Dude, I played a game of speed chess on the podcast.
Did you?
2 days ago, Friday, and I got beat in less than 5 minutes by Josh Wilson.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, speed chess is hard, dude.
How many seconds a move?
Well, you set the clock for 5 minutes, and then he had like this little thing, and it's a touch deal. So when I touch, his timer starts going. So I move, and then that was hard. So figuring out how to do that, and then you don't have no time to strategize. I want to play him a long game next time he comes on. But anyway, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But instead of drawing stuff like that, I thought it was boring. I used to draw pictures of like highways, buildings, utility poles, and run electricity. And basically, I was an engineer and an architect kind of combined together, because that was what I'd done. When I traveled in the car, I would always look out the window, and I would take notice of how everything was laid out, how the city's laid out, how the buildings were laid out compared to the highway and which directions they were turned. It's kind of a nerdy thing, I guess. But that was, I don't know, as a kid, that was kind of a fascination. So that's what brought me onto the architecture. But once I got into the program and took a couple of classes, it was interesting, but it was boring.
Yeah.
It wasn't the most interesting thing that I've done.
Which I would probably describe you now as, to people listening, as an entrepreneur. would be a great description for your trajectory and current state of affairs. But that's something I tell, like when I go give talks at schools and motivational type, whether we're doing a martial arts demo or not.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I didn't get my stuff figured out until like my current trajectory until I was probably 23 years old. But I remember being, and I've been telling my college students this, I remember being 18, 19 years old and just like stressing over what was going to be next, and should I be an architect or a radiology person or a blah blah blah. And even my wife Cora, she was, I'm going to be a dental hygienist.
Oh, really?
And that's not how it turned out. And and I don't think that either one of us regrets that. But that's being an entrepreneur just allows you. Like I was just thinking just this morning how different it is. Like how like some people I know went even a similar route, but don't have something like martial arts going on, and it turned out totally different for them. But and they're trying to find employment or haven't really settled into life, so to speak.
And you're that job kind of situation, job field and search, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's like, everything I'm doing is because I want to do it. Unfortunately, I want to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like this
that's
podcast.
That's the way I've always been. And it's been something that I've done as a kid, always coming up. I've always had my hands here, hands there, doing different things. I may wake up, draw one day. I may wake up the next day, and I may be a pitcher of a baseball team or something,
Yeah. So how you I would also consider you a musician. How long have you been playing music? What got you into music?
Man, and that comes from, again, as a kid listening to the radio coming up, and my first musical instrument that I wanted to play was actually a keyboard, but and then guitar second. But I had an eclectic taste of music, and I prefer rock and roll more than anything, because I feel like you can be more diverse in that. If you make a song, if you write a song, you can have it be about anything. Sometimes you get stuck into a certain genre. They want you to be, your audience will expect this type of song or this type of subject. Where to me, I'm way out there. I may be talking about aliens.
Well,
something crazy.
No, I think that's a broad creative license. Guy Ritchie was saying that on, I don't know if you've seen that movie, King Arthur, but Guy Ritchie was saying that when he did that was like the opening scene, he did a certain few things to give him broad creative licensure for the audience, for going forward. But I mean, think about all the people that have been experimental like that, and so what if it lost them some fans? Like it gained them some of that era, or like Neil Young, went super experimental in the '80s, and it's just kind of like done what he wanted to do. And I think that's what you should do, whether you're doing music or jiu-jitsu or whatever, is to not get super set on one.
Oh, you got to be your own person.
Yeah, everybody's a different individual. And that allows to some sort of unique approach, like you might have a way better half guard than me. And that might just be because of some trait or attribute that has nothing to do with half guard. Like I talk about my buddy Dylan. It's like he is a sick musician, sick guitar player, sick drummer, and he picks up jiu-jitsu really fast. Yeah. And it's because I think because a lot of the same things about him that make him good at music make him good at jiu-jitsu. It's like about how he processes things.
Does he read music?
About it. I don't know. I think so.
It's like in the 5th grade, I started band, and I played trumpet in the band.
Nice.
Kind of another nerdy thing.
I wish I would have done that. I talked about that with my last guest, or two guests ago, that I was like approached with, hey, do you want to do football or band? I was like, I want to do both. And they're like,
oh, I remember you talking about that.
Can't do that.
Yeah. And I've done both. I played football and was in the band. And
you probably could do both. It was probably just more paperwork.
And it was something when I told the coach, at halftime, I was going to march with the band, and they're like, go on and get out of here. You're probably not going to be the football type.
And it was
so
like,
go do music.
I was in theater and football, and there was like some division there as well. It's like, you do that and that, and it's unfortunate that you can't, that there are these categorical stereotypes that, it's like,
you can't be an athlete and a musician.
Yeah. Forget that. This is Studio A. Studio B is across the hall.
I know.
It's got a PA and a drum kit, and yeah. So, follow your own way.
But when I, coming up in 5th grade, playing music all the way through, till I graduated high school, I mean, you learn how to read music, and you learn how to follow patterns, and you learn how to memorize certain sequences. And everybody does it. You just do it to a certain extent. Like, if you can't read music, you hear your favorite song and you can hum it and you've memorized a sequence. But when you go into like Jiu-Jitsu, you listen to the teacher and they teach you a certain sequence. And those two skills are the same. It doesn't matter if it's A, B sharp, C, or whatever. You remember 1, 2, 3, and you remember a general order, or you remember how to get to the end. You may miss a few notes on the way, but you know how to get from a beginning point to an ending point. And I see that as like the connection between like a musician and a martial artist. Because how many of us jiu-jitsu people are musicians?
I know. I mean, I know
There's
quite.
A lot of us.
I know quite a few people that are sick at both. Like whether they're people in like because we both own a martial arts school, so that's a unique similarity that we both are big time into music and play music. But a lot of my people at the gym play this or that instrument, bass, slapping the bass. I got a couple of people that are musically talented on the squad.
Because it doesn't surprise me. It surprised me at first, like when I learned that you played guitar and you sang and performed the show, and I was like, man, he's a musician too.
We're Renaissance people.
Yeah. Then I met Johnny, and Johnny was talking about being in punk bands and playing bass, and I'm
Johnny slaps the bass.
Yeah, I'm like, man, he's a musician too. And it's, I ask a lot of people, they know jiu-jitsu, or if they're doing jiu-jitsu, if they're a musician, or, what's their instrument. There's probably a few secret musicians that we don't know about, like Nate. He's a singer.
Oh, dude, Nate has a drum kit set up in his bedroom. He has a djembe, and I'm going to tell you, bro, I found this djembe on the marketplace that I want to buy so bad. It's got this it's a buffalo skin head, and it's got this sick head cover. It's 18 inches.
Those are nice.
I'm struggling not to buy it.
I've been wanting one of those for a long time.
I've got one, but it's a 9-inch head. I bought it in Eureka Springs, and I got an incredible deal on it. I bought Roger Waters tickets the same weekend, Memorial Day sale. But yeah, djembes are sick. I used to have a cajon, but I traded it for an acoustic amp. Yeah, which I just get way more use out of. But I would really like a djembe around the house, as well as a set of congas or bongos, either one or both. Because I can, like I tell people frequently, I can do two things at once. But once you add like bass, snare, and it's just too much.
And a hi-hat or something.
Too much. I can do three things at once, just not at the drums, and that's not where I'm going to put my energy. But I do I'm a really big fan of world percussion. Like one of my favorite bands, Widespread Panic. They have a drummer who's sick. He has like no expression while he's playing, Dwayne Trucks. But they have a bongo and like all of this stuff player, world percussionist, and named Sonny Ortiz, and it just adds a whole other element to the band.
Did you like Dream Theater?
Yeah, I never got super into them, but I believe it's their drummer. Yes, their drummer's in a band I've recently been getting into that my buddy Dylan, I just mentioned earlier, turned me on to, Winery Dogs.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're sick. When I first heard that, I thought it was, rest in peace. I thought it was Chris Cornell.
Yeah,
singing, and I didn't know it was the guitar player. I mean, he's a sick guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever listen to Chickenfoot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my man, Satriani.
Yeah. See, I knew you were a Satriani fan.
Yeah.
But no, they are sick as well. I've just recently gotten into them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Somebody I recently heard on Joe Rogan's podcast was talking about David Lee Roth. What was he saying? Oh, he said that people would be like, "Oh, we can't believe you're," like people that he went to like high school with or something.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, "Oh, we can't believe you're this guy," you know, blah blah. We work at the bank or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I chose to sail the seas of consequence. You know, so that's and I was like, yeah, me too. Because, you know, like I just took a total non-traditional path with what I was going to do. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like early on and like that kind of, while you're forming your prefrontal cortex like that, you know, until you're 23, 25 years old, depending on who you are and your upbringing and your support system, are fully developed and confident as enough as a person to like choose, this is what I want to do. You know, like, because I did, like I said, I didn't get out of school till well after I was 25. And I'm just now, like, I've been telling people this, like,
it's hard to choose one thing.
It is, but, you know, and I enjoy, like, I'm teaching classes at the university because I want to, you know. It's not like out of a necessity of, I have to do this. Like, I want to do this. I want to do the podcast. I want to teach jiu-jitsu. I want to own a martial arts school. I want to play music.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk about all of it. And I want to binge watch Netflix shows and drink lots of coffee.
Because why limit yourself sometimes? I mean,
dude,
there's a lot of passions I think people want to do, and they'll sit at home on a Monday or maybe every Monday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever their patterns are, and fantasize about the things that they could be doing. And they limit themselves because they'll get married and they'll have kids and they'll just stop their whole life and they say, well, my life is dedicated to them. But when you have a family, you're supposed to be a leader and you're supposed to go out and do things so your kids look at you as being the leader, you know, as opposed to them watching TV and looking at whoever, you know, for their role model. People talk about good role models, bad role models, but if you make yourself the role model in your household, I mean, you should be the leader for your kids to follow. I mean, who else should be their hero?
Yeah, for real.
Don Quixote could be their leader, their role model.
So, so do you just at one point work in the mean streets?
Oh, man.
Decide to get into martial arts training, or just kind of what led you down that path as well? Because you got out of high school, you got into music earlier on. Mm-hmm.
Martial arts it was one of those fantasy type of things, and it really got big, you know, with the Karate Kid movies coming up.
Hell yeah.
And I was I can't remember, middle school, junior high, and I saw those things, and it, you know, being a black belt was something. It was just those fantasies. Coming up, you didn't think you were ever going to make it to that level. And then I realized there were people around in my area, you know, like George Owens and those guys, you know, that were doing it for real. And you hear about those things. And my mom actually started training under him. And I think it's Hanto-Ryu Karate. And I think she went up to brown belt. If I can't, don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around in there. And that's back when they had the belt systems that were just pretty much standard, you know, 6 to 8 belts. There was no camo belts or stripe belts or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you spent a while at white belt, and then you went to, I think it was either yellow or orange, I can't remember, but there was one or the other. There wasn't both of them. And I remember becoming a blue belt, and I think she kept the same belt because she would dye her belt from one color to the next.
Yeah, Mr. Dean.
Yeah, and he did that. It's an old school type of thing. And, you know, I saw her coming up and doing that. And she took us to the dojo one day, and wasn't anybody there, but she was working out doing something. And I went to hit the bag. And my little hands, you know, with the heavy bag, it didn't work out too well.
Little hands.
Yeah. And the speed bag was too tall. And I'm like, man, I can't do martial arts. because the bags are they're too hard and they're too high up there. So, but she got started. I watched her, and my sister got started doing taekwondo when she was away in college, and she competed a lot and she fought a lot, and some pretty rough fights, for taekwondo, what they call taekwondo competitions.
And like listening to Joe Rogan talk about those days and during, it's like, oh my gosh, man, like getting knocked out and like not the headgear, not being on, and you falling and busting your eyebrow or your head on the gym floor.
It's not the first hit; it's the second one.
Yeah,
secondary impact.
I wonder if that's where that phrase comes from. It's going to be 2 hits. Me hitting you and you hitting the floor. Oh, man.
Oh, but when she was away in college, she competed a lot in, taekwondo tournaments. And when she would come home, she would tell me about them. And, I saw her go through her ranks and have her black belt test. And her test being, I think it was the first or second test. She went out there and done all the katas. They done first kata all the way up to the black belt kata, just all in a row. And then they would break off and they would spar. And then the sparring got from 1-on-1 to group sparring, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and 4-on-1. And it just kept getting more. And it was just her fighting 2, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. And then it was the whole class. She had to fight the whole class. And then after that, they had to go do their board breaks after they done the sparring. And I was like, man, I wonder if I can do that.
My sister can whip my ass.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
I know. But she would come home and she would teach me the katas. And my son, he was 3 or 4, somewhere around and then. And he would watch us do it. And she would kind of teach him, and he would kind of get it, but kind of not get it. And I didn't exactly get it at first. Chun-Ji seemed pretty difficult when you didn't have any clue about what a 4 balance stance was. But I think she taught us the first couple of katas and told me, keep practicing. You do this, and maybe you come down and we can get you into class or something like that. But she was living in Tulsa at the time. I was still in Darnell, and it was actually my ex-wife one day went over and signed us up in taekwondo.
That happens a lot. I get a lot of wives that come in and are like, hey, I'm here to sign my family up. This I've always wanted to try it, or just want the perceived benefits, which are very real, that come with martial arts or exercise. That's the thing. It's like whether or not, because we both practice MMA, and no matter what martial art you practice, they're all a great form of just, confidence building. There's just a lot of exercise. There's a lot of physical and mental benefits associated with all forms of martial arts, yoga, massage, all these different things. And, I think that while you might not be into boxing or kickboxing, you might be into a traditional martial art. And that, that's appeals to a bigger range of people. And, whether or not they're doing it for sport reasons or self-defense reasons or what have you, it's just such a broad topic.
And that makes me think, because one thing when I was talk about being a kid and coming up, one thing I said I would never do, I would watch the guys box on TV, and I was like, I'll never box.
I know, dude. I've been studying boxing. It is its own individual sport, I guess you could say. This is a singular, a specialty approach to what we're doing since 2013.
Yeah.
And it is definitively different. Like, I can see and tell you a lot of the crossovers and how to blend the boxing into a lot of other things, into the kicks and into the takedowns and into the clinches. And But it's just like doing boxing for boxing and boxing for the sport of boxing is completely different. Just like doing taekwondo for sport taekwondo is different. But you look at somebody like Benson Henderson in his prime or Anthony Pettis that are like taekwondo-based guys. Or Joe Rogan. It's like they bring badass kicks to like you blend that with the Muay Thai game and you add the boxing in on top of it, and you either
got a dynamic
counter wrestle or are a wrestler like Stipe, is like a two style martial artist. And I think if you have wrestling or boxing as a background, that you have a very high likelihood to kill it. And that's why I wanted to go that direction too, is because we was always focused on wrestling and do especially when we're training MMA or in no-gi, like at the beginning on the front end of our no-gi classes. But it's sad that we have the judo program, we have the boxing club, we got kickboxing.
And then one of my reasons for not wanting to box was I didn't want to get hit.
Yeah.
And look at me,
I remember one time, Nate.
Kickboxing appealed to me, but boxing didn't.
I don't know
me
why. Too early on. Me too. I felt the same way. And then I was just like, I hit mitts all the time, like I'm doing boxing half the time. What are you talking about? I punch all the time. But it's definitively different. The base is different. The strategy's different. The do's and don'ts are different. There's a lot of crossover, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's...
I always thought kicking somebody was the way to go. And when I started Taekwondo, that carried over because I want to head kick somebody.
Yeah, I'd feel the same way. I recently, like, I haven't accidentally knocked anyone out in a long time, and I kind of flash knocked somebody out not too long ago, and it just happens, man. Like I once told somebody, there's no polite way to kick someone in the face.
No.
And it is what it is. I saw a kick the other day online.
Try not to land too much shin.
Did you see that where the dude's teeth, he got kicked, just like boom, just shattered his teeth. Like they took his mouthpiece out and there were all these teeth in the mouthpiece. Shoot. Yeah. Oh my God. You can't even, the mouthpiece doesn't even protect you. Invest in a good mouthpiece.
He probably had his jaw open. Or his jaw hanging down.
Damn.
Because you get hit twice.
You ever seen like people get kicked in the arm and like their hand just like falls over? Oh my God. That happens in kickboxing periodically. Oh, yeah, against Chuck Liddell, right?
Yeah.
And then he knocked him out.
Yeah.
I've been telling everybody Chuck's coming back. He's going to fight in Bellator.
Yeah, he's getting in shape.
He's going to fight 3 people.
Oh, 3?
I have 3 predictions.
Oh,
Who do you think he's going to fight?
Tito for one.
I think Tito too, dude.
I think he would fight Chael Sonnen too.
Chael, they're already hyping that. Who do you think's number 3?
Rampage for revenge.
I've been talking about this, dude. You've been listening to the podcast?
No.
Yeah. I've been talking about that. I feel like those are my same 3 predictions, or is a finale Captain America. Randy Couture comes out of retirement.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, because you know why?
Uh-huh.
I think that after this heavyweight Grand Prix is over, we'll start to see some of this stuff materialize because they'll have nothing else to make money off of.
Yeah.
And I think that Randy's going to come out of retirement and fight Fedor. Because that's the fight that never happened that Randy always wanted. And
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of little
theories
on Bellator, but we'll save that for an episode of weekly MMA Sports Unraveled episode. Anyway, but that's it's definitely, because I think that's Bellator's model, is to like everybody feels let down by the UFC because they're trying to sell you these divisions, but they're not.
They're not validating.
Yeah,
anything.
and that's like when the lobbying was going on in Congress and stuff. That was kind of coming to the forefront. It's like, well, where is the seeding? Where is the rankings? Where is And I get that, but Bellator doesn't kind of come. It's like, yeah, we had divisions, we have champions, but look at this fight over here, Kimbo Slice versus, they're a circus. They like, I feel like they've legitimized a lot more.
UFC was a circus starting out.
Yes, granted. They're not like less of a circus. They were a circus, and now they're the Wild West.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that they're kind of like a Pride-esque organization. I love what they've done with their cage, man. How they do the kickboxing, and I think that's the future. I have a theory too, that over time, we're going to start seeing more and more
flat surface.
Yes, but seeing that extra length on the outside of the ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also starting to see there's this, and it may just be in our region, but I really think that it is outside of our region, and I think that seeing that in Bellator is the first kind of move. Is a lot of organizations in like St. Louis, for example, Oklahoma, like Apollo Cook, was in, one of the coaches and trainers featured in Choke with Hicks and Gracie. But they do these promotions, Memphis. I've seen a lot of in our region promotions do this, and elsewhere. They do like Pro-Am, but not amateur boxing, but boxing, kickboxing, and MMA all on the same card in the ring.
Yeah.
And for MMA, they do a 5 rope ring.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
I think that with the extra, length on the outside, I think that's a sustainable model. It does change the wall work. It changes that part of the game. Mm-hmm. But I
still like the pride style where you have kicks and whatever on the ground because it forces people to fight.
Yeah.
It doesn't force, you get tired, you can lay on somebody. At certain spots, you're not actually in danger. And
what do you think about the whole no, you didn't fight enough, so you're not getting that $10,000 off your, or whatever.
Oh, shoot. That would suck.
Yeah, I know that. What they gave him a card or something? I can't.
Oh, the yellow card.
The yellow card.
If they got the red card, I think they were penalized so much money.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That happened to Rampage in a fight, and I think he finished it like few seconds afterwards.
Rampage is so funny. I think that I was talking to my buddy Josh about, I was just texting him, I'm like, what's next for Rampage? He's like, retirement. And I was like, bro, Rampage still has to fight Chuck Liddell according to my theory. Uh-huh. And I was like, but they're fight hyping Rampage versus Rashad right now. And he's like, well, I thought Rashad was going to fight Bisping. And I was like, well, after Rashad loses to Bisping and has to go to Bellator or whatever, I actually have this conspiracy that the Fertitta brothers own Bellator.
Yeah. It would make sense. At least to be an investor or a silent partner or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on.
But the rumor is that Zuf is going to do boxing.
Yeah, that's what kind of makes me suspicious to think it's like, so maybe the UFC's model is going to be similar to Bellator's model in that they do boxing and MMA, and that's because of like McGregor, they're more closely associated with the sport of boxing, and whereas Bellator's, I feel like, more closely associated to like Glory.
But why not do an event where you come out and you box and you have some MMA fights at the end, or vice versa?
Yeah, I like to see mixed cards like that. I think you can put on more entertaining fights, but then it does become probably less so about divisions. And I think that the UFC's biggest difficulty is that they try and run like a 500 fighter roster, and male and female. There's so many people to keep track of. It's like, how could you? Mm-hmm. And there's so much talent out there that it's coming up through the ranks. It's like, that's like Bryce just getting on the Ultimate Fighter. It's like Bryce has been a badass for a long time, winning on World Series of Fighting, and and like that's the series that he's on is going to be Stipe versus Cormier.
Yeah, he's undefeated,
and everybody on that episode on the Ultimate Fighter is undefeated this season.
I'll be excited to see the season, because the last one they had, I think I missed most of it. I probably watched the first 2 episodes, and I watched those on replay.
Yeah. What'd you think about the Miocic fight the other night?
I didn't even watch it, but it was kind of as expected. I expected Ngannou to go out there and, swing for the fences or try and knock him out, and I expected Stipe to duck and roll. By
the 3rd round, Stipe had just taken, in the 2nd round, he did too. Mm-hmm. But he just really had the composure of a champion.
Yeah, I think it made a better fighter out of him and a more well-rounded fighter. I think he worked on a lot of things to put it together, because before...
Great game plan.
Yeah, he just had to stand and throw, and he knocked out, what's his name, backing up Verdun. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was awesome, for him to come in there and do that.
Yeah, Stipe, he had some decisions and stuff, but he's finished I think his last, like, he didn't finish Ngannou, but had finished his last 5 fights before that.
Yeah.
And you typically see fighters in the part of their career that Stipe is in, going into those 5 fights.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they start winning decisions. Even
Yeah.
John Jones, which he finished Cormier in that no contest.
Mm-hmm.
And did he finish anyone before that? He fought OSP to a decision.
He finished
Cormier
Machida.
was well, yeah, but like then he fought Gustafsson to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
He fought OSP to a decision. He wasn't the first Cormier fight to a decision.
Yeah.
He's, you start to see fighters, and whether it's part of their strategy or their game plan or whatever, they take less risk. They get figured out more. I don't know, but that's typically what you see a pattern, even in someone like John Jones. The older they get and the more the veteran they come, the fewer fights they finish.
Well,
I mean,
think,
they don't, but Stipe's gotten more dominant, and
I
you
think
don't
Jones
see that a lot.
he was still talented enough to win the fights like when he started UFC. Because if you watch I can't remember how many he got before he got a title shot against.
See, he fought Bonner.
Yeah,
was his first or second fight.
Yeah, he
in the
threw
UFC.
him around like a rag doll.
Oh, dude, didn't he belly to back him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he used a
boom.
double overhook throw over the back or something like
Belly
that.
to belly, maybe. I can't remember,
Yeah.
but it was sick.
Yeah,
I
it was some
remember
kind of-
watching it.
some
I
kind
watched
of
that
weird
card.
throw.
I want to say that card might have been like UFC 107,
Mm-hmm.
Penn versus Diaz.
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna do Sports Unraveled over BJ Penn's last 10 fights.
Nice.
Yeah,
Because
He's
I
2-7-1.
watched Jones's, I think his first fight. I know I watched the Stephen Bonner fight, and I watched Matt Hamill fight. Every one of his fights when he came in to the UFC, I can't remember if he took him down, but I know he finished the fights on the ground with elbows. And the only reason he lost that Matt Hamill fight was the 12-6 elbow.
for sure. So he's got 2 no contests on his record now, right? Or
Yeah.
Was that a no contest? They ruled the Matt Hamill fight a no contest or a loss?
A loss.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's got a loss and a no contest.
Mm-hmm. And if you hear people talk about him, they still refer him to, as an undefeated fighter. Dana White, he'll totally overlook Matt Hamill.
Yeah. Which he's never. That Gustafsson fight was close. Who else am I missing that he fought after?
Shogun.
Oh yeah, he beat Shogun to win the light heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
Then he fought as champion. He fought Machida.
He fought Rampage too. Rashad
Rampage, Rashad. He fought Cormier.
Did he
fought
fight Rashad
Gustafsson.
twice?
He fought Teixeira, but did he finish Teixeira?
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
I don't think
either.
so.
But I think it was a decision. I'm gonna look that up.
I can't remember the last fight he finished besides Machida.
That was a sick finish.
Yeah.
I'm going to get his record up here because I almost guarantee you that. Well, that's why it's impressive to me that Jones came back and finished Cormier, unless. And I think that if Jones is on steroids, he's always been on steroids. It's not like he was just on steroids for this fight. So it's not like this is like for this fight kind of taints his legacy type deal. But. I want to do a whole series of podcast on performance enhancing drugs too.
If you're looking at differences in him, I think the difference came after the Shogun win, that he really was a different fighter because he didn't really look for the finish like I thought he used to.
Here's his trajectory at we'll go over. So he fought Andre Gusmao. It wins a decision, UFC 87. Then
That's
he
the
fights
first one, right?
Bonner decision. Then he submits Jake O'Brien at UFC 100, which was a sick card. He gets DQ'd and loses to Matt Hamill. Wins TKO's Brandon Vera, Matyshenko, submits
Brandon
Vader.
Vera.
TKO's Hua, submits Rampage, submits Machida, goes to decision with Rashad, but Rashad was, a formidable opponent, submits Vitor Belfort after almost getting submitted, TKO's Chael Sonnen with elbows. Then, here we go, Gustafsson, Teixeira, Cormier, and OSP, all decisions. Then he comes back and gets a no contest overturned for the Daniel Cormier fight. And that's so then he was, let's see. So he got stripped after the OSP fight for testing positive for controlled substances. chymotherapine and letrozole. I don't know how to say these steroid names. And then it was Turnabol.
Turinabol.
Turinabol. And then he have one other issue? Fine. Jones, yeah. And then the other Cormier fight, yeah, those dick pills will get you every time, man, with those USADA guys. Yeah, but see, so you have him, more decisions coming later in the career. And Stipe, that is not the case. And that's why I had, when I really started breaking down that Ngannou versus Stipe fight, I was on the Ngannou hype train that the UFC had laid out for me to be on.
Oh, yeah. They get good at that on some people. Some people I'll buy it. But I mean,
he did decapitate Overeem.
Yeah, but you got to look at the skill set that each fighter brings to that individual fight. I mean, you can get a fighter that's, comes in the UFC and goes on a win streak of 4 or 5 fights, and everybody's like, whoa,
OMG.
Yeah, he deserves a title shot. But if you break down each fight and look at the skills they use to win a fight, sometimes I think it makes a whole lot of difference. But I don't know. I hate to say Ngannou and Overeem, but Overeem, sometimes when he walks into the cage, he doesn't treat it like a fight. He treats it more like an experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether he's going to win or lose seems secondary.
See, that's and we broke down all 6 of his fights in the UFC on the podcast.
Oh, you did?
A few episodes ago. We just did a Sports
For
Unraveled for Ngannou.
Oh, okay.
And I just my opinion of him really began to shift, and I thought that it's like Stipe had such a brilliant game plan on the wrestling that of when and where he chose to implement it, that that's where his weak spot was. I could tell you, but it's like then just because that was a weak spot for him in all those fights doesn't mean Stipe is going to be able to exploit that weak spot. He could have chosen a different game plan, a different path. But I thought that, or tried too hard to get the takedowns, but it was perfect. And I thought early on the first round, Stipe got kind of dropped, and Ngannou goes charging in,
him up.
and Stipe was already down on his knees and shoots in and gets a takedown. And I'm like, that is such a great time. Like one time, we were talking about Eric before the podcast, and I remembered this. He was coaching me at a match in Memphis, and I was stood up, and I should have ankle picked when I stood up. While you're already down, if you're standing up, that is such a great time. If they are standing, to do a takedown, to do a single, to do a double, to fit something in, to stand up with an ankle. And those are just some cool little strategies I picked up along the way that I use now all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Let me ask you something. The Ngannou punch that knocked out Overeem, was it a right hook or left uppercut or right uppercut? I know it was uppercut.
It was a lead hand uppercut.
Was it lead?
Yeah.
Do you think it was, how accurate do you think he is to land that punch again?
I think his uppercuts are sick. I think that every time he threw an uppercut, it made my butthole pucker.
What about his, what about his accuracy in these other fights?
I think he's got formidable striking. I really do. I'm not saying I think he's young. I'm not saying I think he's the best striker. I think one of the best things he could do would be to drop a little bit of weight. And I mean, he's a big heavyweight, but I think that in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, you saw that Stipe's that perfect weight for a heavyweight, in my opinion. Now, that 235, 240 range. It's because your heart and lungs can only pump blood and oxygen to so much for so long, and if you're a bigger machine, you take more, and it's that's why they're saying that whether or not he trained on the ground or did wrestling or had a wrestling coach in his corner, it's obvious he didn't do it enough.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did it. It's you're not fighting. I don't think you're fighting in the UFC and not doing those things. But I think that at that level, when you're in a heavyweight world title fight, you got to have all those specialty corners in there. And that's why I went to that model a few years ago.
Or to fight in every area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to have people that can give you advice with, hey, this is what we need to be doing on our takedowns this round, okay? This is if the MMA coach is saying, if Greg Jackson's hey, we got to get a takedown, there needs to be a wrestling coach there being this is how we're going to do it. Just he's hey, this is what I want you to do for striking, and Michael Winklejohn's, this is how you're going to do it. There's these specialties, and I mean, I'm talking more, if you look at GSP's corner, you got Freddie Roach. Hey, this is what we need to do in the second round for our boxing, for our overhand, for our jab.
Now his boxing was a whole lot better. George St. Pierre in the last fight.
It was, man, because how could you train with Freddie Roach and it not be just the best in the world?
Now, he's trained with him before, but this is the first time I see him actually.
I heard he trained with him the whole time he was off. I heard they trained together a lot. So, yeah.
And, the punch with Ngannou, I just thought Overeem was way out of where he needed to be. And it was, I'm not going to say it was a lucky punch, but I'm going to say Ngannou is not that accurate of a striker to land that punch again if Overeem's kind of leaning out. Because Overeem was
he throws a lot of uppercuts stylistically.
He was offline.
Yeah, he did.
Then again, it was the lead uppercut, though.
He did kind of weave into it. My one of my boxers, Tim, he throws a mean-ass lead hand uppercut. Like, he will knock your head off with it.
Oh, yeah.
Have you sparred with Tim?
No.
Have you? I
saw him fight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you came to his fight the other night. He's a tank, man. I hope that he's able to do Golden Gloves this year. They just changed the rule on Golden Gloves, and where you can't. You have to be 19 to go to nationals. And he's 18.
Really?
So he's going to be 18 in March. So he will be 18 while nationals going on. So he can't go to nationals until next year.
He's that young. He's got some. He's going to be a beast.
I know, dude. Right? I know.
Yeah.
Because he's got a lot of fights this year, and that's, like I said, just because there's not a lot of fights to be had, and both times he's fought that kid have been 2 times he's fought that kid have been on shows where like hardly anyone showed. Well, yeah, one of the shows a lot of people showed.
Yeah,
the other two,
he's only going to get better because of that.
I know, man. It's like it was his 5th, 6th, and then 4th, 5th, and 7th fight or something like that. 3rd, 4th, and 7th fight that he fought that kid, and has had sick wins. The fights in between. So like when he fights an open class fighter, he puts them out, standing TKOs, two standing 8 counts. He got a knockdown in his fight before that. He's still growing, man. He's training hard, and
he relaxes a lot in the fight. From what I saw, he had a couple of moments where
we're making adjustments on his earlier rounds. We got him doing more sprints and stuff. So. But yeah, he's figuring it out. He's growing from it, and I'm excited to see. And like on the pro boxing circuit, it's like I'm surprised. I'm hoping to see Zuffa do something interesting.
Yeah.
So that
whatever it does has to be
to give people like
light a new fire.
Well, I don't really like there. It's like you're going to go the Olympic route, you're going to go the pro boxing route, or what? And I don't like those A and B options that much on their business model. So, like going to these like bigger regional boxing shows, it's like, especially if there's like a special guest there, like, we have an MMA show with like Frank Mir on it or something, like in Oklahoma and stuff. It's funny. People will be, hey man, here's my business card. You want to fight, bro? You give me a call. It's like, what, dude? Like this guy that lost to Floyd Mayweather in Mayweather's first title fight was there just sharking all the talent, man. Yeah. And that's a real part of it, And I was like, looked over at Tim. I was like, you see that? That's what I was telling you.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, dude, we'll have to have you back on. Let's go ahead and start wrapping it up because we got to go do some jiu-jitsu. It's getting close to that time.
Gotta do that training thing.
Yeah, we're about to go get our roll on at the gym for some martial arts. So real quick, you want to give any plugs before we get off the air?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'll give a few plugs. If anybody out there listening, you coming through Fort Smith, give me a ring at Thompson Defense Academy. We'll do some training. We'll sit down and talk or what have you.
You have your own podcast.
Yeah, I got my own podcast. It's called Mega Talks. I've been doing that probably 11 episodes deep right now. Got some other people lined up. Had a few no shows. That's just the podcast life. But
reschedules.
Yeah, reschedule those. But find me on iTunes. Trying to get hooked up with supposed to get it approved for Stitcher, not too long.
I got on Stitcher super fast somehow.
Yeah.
We'll get on Stitcher, iTunes, and then I submitted to Spotify.
Oh, yeah. We just had my host just had a Spotify thing pop up, and I applied on there.
Yeah, likewise.
I'm probably going to do some YouTube, but look for it out there. You can go to popbean.com/megatalks, and you hear the episodes up there. I do a lifestyle podcast, so talk to a lot of different people from different walks of life. It's just not straight Jiu-Jitsu. It's not just straight MMA.
It's everything, bro. It's life unraveled.
I know. I don't want to. I can't get into just one subject. I like a lot of different subjects. I mean, gotta have fun. Still gonna hear every once in a while. You hear some MMA stuff, but
yeah, no, it's like this. Our list of topics we went over today is a thematic rainbow of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Thompson Defense Academy, Mega Talks podcast. Also, look for more of my clothing line coming out 2018. Probably have some spring release. It's not going to be a huge release, but we're going to do at least 2 or 3 T-shirts and a few more items to get into 2018. It's a hard bit trying to run multiple businesses.
It is, man. It is. But
Ultimate Expression. Look for its own Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
You have a website?
Ultimate Expression. Look for it with the store is on storeenvy.com. We used to have a website, but websites kind of,
dude,
you go through your peaks and valleys with websites getting a lot of hits
right now, dude.
Yeah.
I'm doing a consolidation project.
Yeah, and I have a couple of different websites, but the Ultimate Expression website went away when you just produced the store there, because we put most of our content just on social media. I mean, that's the best outlet.
I get my best response on everything.
Yeah. Honestly. Nobody wants to go to your webpage and watch a video, 30-second video they could have saw on Instagram or just a picture.
Word.
Plus, it costs on your T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, now you do have some sick designs, so definitely everybody check them out. Chris Thompson, Ultimate Expression, Thompson Defense Academy, Mega Talks. We're definitely gonna have you back on the podcast. I would love to be on your podcast. We're definitely gonna make that happen. Sure. We just need to do it something similar to what we're doing today on a Friday. But we're gonna go get our train on. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Life Unraveled.